Mr. Mayor.
I must be getting tired.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm just going to make some comments, if you don't mind, to restart this process.
I've heard comments.
Councilor Cunningham was talking earlier about keeping the discussion going, and I agree with that. When John was giving us his outline of his report, well, one of the things he mentioned was my favorite friends, Jean and Jack. When I came on council 2 years ago, I talked about Jean and Jack. When I talk about alternatives to the sewage treatment, I have never talked about plants. I've always talked about alternatives and how we're going to take care of this and the difference between a Cadillac model and a Chevrolet model. I'm not an engineer, I'm a cabinet maker. I don't usually make comments about engineering because I don't know, but I don't expect also councillors to come to me at work and tell me how to build a cabinet. So, my feeling is very simple on this, is that I all along have been taking advice from the appropriate experts. I suggested that all the things that happened during the debate, during the election campaign, could be handled by having an ad hoc committee because part of the discussion on this sewage treatment plant had to do about bringing new customers on, zones 3 and 4. It was part of the process. How the environmental assessment went and whatever, I was part of the environmental assessment, but I'm not going to return to that subject today because that's a subject that's done. It was a process that was went through, whether it was done right or wrong. Obviously, a ministry official has just told us it was done in the appropriate manner under the Act. I can't argue with that. But I do know one thing. We did have an ad hoc committee who looked at the Zone 3 and 4 issues. It was quite a discussion during the election. There were a lot of people who took the Zone 3 and 4 approach that we were going to force sewers on people for the purposes of building this plant as a means and a way of creating whatever it was, which was democracy. It was saying out loud their feelings. Similarly, the process that we employ here is a form of democracy. What I'd like to say is I said this from day one, I can only represent myself and Jean and Jack. And Jean and Jack live down in Roosford, and they live up in Grand Bend, and they live over by me by Feb212. And each of them in their own way are ratepayers who all want economic development of some sort. And I think when we've heard in this last week that the turning down of this was being anti-economic development, that hurt me. I used to chair economic development in a former municipality that doesn't exist. And I think there's nobody on this council that isn't for it. Is in fact this not for economic development? We all know it is. The master plan on sewage is for economic development. Matter of fact, we should pay for things for economic development in another way. My alternative of always asked for Jean and Jack is that we do not penalize Jean and Jack for the next 10 years and the interest charges on Jean and Jack during this period of time to pay for it, because the CN Watson has to do with the outlines presented to us by the province many years ago, which I've supported, and Ruth knows this, and you know this, Bill, I supported, that we would do life cycle replacement for our infrastructure. We led the province on this, and we should be proud of it. So we should not go back on that. But what gets me about this issue is this. Other than the Cadillac Chevrolet model, I think we've got a single and double bill, so we can go to there. But what gets me is it's taken to here now, a month ago, Mr. Scanlon over at the arena, and here today, John, with this report, which I saw a week ago Friday night, read it many times, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. $240 or whatever it is, I still go back to. This is economic development for all of us. The tool to be used for economic development is assessment. It should go across the board for everybody. Life cycle replacement should go on, exactly what the CN Watson report said. From day one, you want to put in place a system that says that we don't go ask the federal or provincial government for money down the road. That's why they're put it in place. That's why this council in the past put it in place. That's why this council for the last year has followed, I thought, like gentlemen and ladies, to the end of January 31st, we tried our best. But in the end, it comes down to costing. We've never seen anything until this point in time. And I'm not being critical, John, don't get me wrong. I'm just going to say that I think, just paraphrasing you earlier today, what I got was this. There was a catch-22. Not that Joseph Heller was quoted today, but staff haven't given us good numbers because we haven't given them good direction. Is that a paraphrasing, generally speaking, of the situation we're in? But I think at the same time, we also have not taken a look at alternatives across the board, because we have got very political about this issue because of the problems created by the past election. and I'm done. I haven't changed my mind. Gene and Jack should not be penalized by this project. We should come up with a system that allows for all of us. And my oracle told me 2 years ago, well, shouldn't I be paying for this the same as we did the water line? You know, I always say about the oracle, she's usually correct. My wife.
Okay. Doesn't give us a direction to go. Yeah, I have.
Yeah, we want direction.
Councillor Elman first. Now, let's have the discussion before we have the direction.
We had some numbers, just very sketchy ones, that were thrown out on the table around option 3, the financing alternatives that we've never had a chance to look at. And, I mean, it's not my decision because, you know, so I can't
Don't
say
go there.
anything. I'd like to see those. I'd like staff to look at that option, because all we've got right now is surveys here. So that's all I'd like to see.
Councillor Underwood.
Yeah, whatever we end up going with, I really need, especially from my people in Forest and Norris, I know we don't like to, we like to sit with Lambton Shores councillors, and I am, but I represent the people in Ward 5, in Forest. The best way to do this is over the tax base, so that everybody pays, and that it's fair and equitable, and it's not going to choke some of my people.
Councillor McGuire.
Can I make a motion that we direct staff to bring back a report to the council meeting based on this?
Okay, based on.
So we can look at, the, what the implications would be if we did put it on the entire tax.
The entire portion of it, or the debt portion of it, or I think we need to be specific what portion of it. I guess we have to also decide whether it's for the single train or the double train, and our partners have suggested only the single train. So if we're going to have a motion of bringing back some reports, should we not know what those numbers are?
Can I think when we get numbers for both?
Okay.
We make it for both, we can decide.
Single train or double train on putting this, okay, on the tax base. John?
You say the next Monday, or?
Yes.
Yeah, obviously it's.
And it's not, you're not doing it, you know how many.
Deputy Mayor?
I think it would be wise for us to also include in that, the staff bringing back numbers to us of what the costs would be, prospective costs. We're looking at alternatives. They can contact Warwick. There's a very recent project. They could contact Chancellor's too, a very recent project too, and include in that what the cost would be to spread it out over the municipality, and then we'd have really apples.
Let's put this in 2 motions.
Okay.
I think the 2 motions are that we have the options that we're in an agreement with, we're still in that agreement, the Tri-Municipal Board. If this motion passes, that we get those numbers for Monday on the taxes. Just second it for that. Councillor Cook. Questions on that? Any more? I want to be clear on what we're asking the staff to bring back to us. Councillor Russell.
Okay, let's be clear, through you to John. With the Watson report, right, to get my brain around this, the Watson report talks about lifetime replacement, the whole idea long-term. My simple brain says we want to replace as part of our operating costs future, right? That's simple. So in terms of this, to keep the user pay philosophy intact, then there's a certain amount that is what I call upfront cost, similar to what the feds and the province would do for their area. This would be my view of it. That amount of money is like a one-time only. And the taxpayer as a whole would only grant it once. And then on your life cycle would replace it. Would that be a way of looking at that? I don't know.
I agree. I think if you're doing this,